Howdy, folks, and welcome to TuneScores. My name's Cary Nightingale, and with me, as always, is Kevin Nebrich. Kevin, how are you doing?
I just drank about 3 cups of coffee, so I'm not feeling very chill.
Well, that's a shame because we're playing YouTube Roulette for this episode, and the playlist on YouTube that we picked to play roulette was the Chill Indie playlist. YouTube Roulette, by the way, for those of you uninitiated, means that we pick a playlist on YouTube, we ask Alexa to give us a random number between 1 and 20, and we use that as the track number. We pick 3 songs and we give them TuneScores. We find it a good way for us to broaden our horizons, particularly on genres that we're not terribly familiar with, and also just to find new music. And hopefully it'll be good music. For this episode, out of Chill Indie, the songs that Alexa told us to pick are Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People, Riptide by Vance Joy, and B.O.M.B by St. Panther. Now, before we get into the actual TuneScore portion, Kev, I wanted to ask you, because I think I have a preconceived notion, without listening purposefully to something that is categorized as chill indie. I hear chill and I think that means a certain thing. I hear indie and I think that means a certain thing. I figured we should probably calibrate what our expectations were going in. So, Kev, when I say indie, what does that mean to you?
You and I both grew up in the 90s, and music was just all over the place. So much so that they actually had to come up with a catch-all phrase, a genre to throw it into. So they just couldn't figure out what it was, threw it in the alternative bucket. And I think that was great. Musical acts were just all over the place. Creativity probably was at an all-time high. And when I think about independent artists, I think of that similarly. For whatever reason, I expect that more out of indie music. And I think maybe it's just because these are people maybe not within the mainstream genres of music, kind of exploring things more, being a little bit more creative or going their own direction. And so that's what I tend to expect, I think, most from indie music.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Kev, that growing up in the 90s, we were exposed to an amazing diversity of sounds that could be considered subgenres within alternative, whatever it was. You know, the first 3 albums that I bought with my own money were by Rammstein, Sublime, and the Cherry Poppin' Daddies. So you've got industrial or metal, a ska-influenced rock sound, and then swing revival. So a lot of diversity came out of that. When I think indie, I think independent label, so an act or artist that's not signed to a major label, which means probably a little bit more obscure in sound and harder to find in general, because they don't have a major label marketing machine behind them, promoting them to whatever the mainstream channel of the day is. Back then, it was absolutely the FM radio stations for us. Now, probably more getting onto a Spotify playlist and things like that. I also think of the do-it-yourself, the DIY aesthetic. Kev, I think you and I are both 100% indie artists because we do it all ourselves. We're not signed to any label, let alone a major label. And our sound could absolutely be described as not mainstream, for better or worse, I suppose. But I think that's what indie means to me. How about chill? If I say chill music, what's that mean to you, Kev?
The best metaphor that I could find is that of if you're going down a river, all right? So you got typical mainstream music, you're going down a river. There's a lot of things carrying you and propelling you down that river. If I were to pick 2 ways to go down the river, you're kayaking, right? You're going down, there's a lot of turbulence, a lot of dynamic changes, things are happening. As far as chill music, specifically, I would say that it's more like tubing down a lazy river, getting stuck in an eddy. I feel like you're going to find a slower pace. You're going to find a lot of repetition in both instrumentation and also vocals, lyrics. So that's what I expect. Other things that I might say about chill music would be just the emotion that you get out of it. I think when I think chill music, I think about hanging outside on a nice hot summer day, just relaxing, driving down the street with the windows open, or maybe on a rainy day, alternatively. It's cold out, it's rainy, let's stay inside and hunker down. So those are the feelings I expect to get out of a chill song.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, chill music should be more comfortable. It should not be unsettling in the way that our Halloween Trick or Treat Feel the Beat playlist probably made most listeners feel. So that's why we're doing sort of a complete 180 for this episode.
Emotional whiplash, as it were.
In a way, but hopefully this is a more cozy version of emotional whiplash, coming back to the chill side of things. For me, when I think chill, I tend to expect a more relaxed beat, a lower tempo, more space or atmosphere between whether it's notes or the strikes of percussion, things like that. I think about the kind of music that I could listen to while I'm focused more deeply on something else or just want to turn my brain off. Even though we listened very actively to each of these three songs for the purpose of rating them with TuneScores, if I'm thinking about chill music, I don't want to have to actively listen. I think that's where the repetition comes in as well. It's like being stuck in a roundabout. Look, kids, there's Parliament. Look, kids, there's Big Ben. There's Parliament again. And I think we got a lot of repetition out of the three songs. A lot of the same 4-chord or 3-chord or even 2-chord loops. A lot of repetitions of chorus or hooks. Things that are not jarring. They're not making the listener really think. I think this would be a good time for us to discuss what commonalities did we find among these three songs before we get into the individualities of each.
Well, as I'm looking at the lyrics here for all three songs that we covered, as far as the lyrics go, I'm seeing a little bit more repetition than I would expect typically. So that might be a commonality that I see. What about you?
I think for me, one thing I was not disappointed, but my expectations for a low tempo, something below 80 beats per minute, that was not met. All three of these songs had 100 or greater beat per minute tempos. They each used a ton of repetition of chord loops. Those are the main things that I noticed as being common to these songs that would make a person, or in this case, YouTube, and its all-knowing, all-seeing algorithm, categorize the songs as being chill indie. So I think that gives us a pretty good understanding of what to expect out of chill indie, or at least what we expected going in. Before we go into the TuneScores for each of these individual three songs, we should probably take a quick break. This one's brought to you by Mary Jane's Mello, Yello, Jello, because sometimes the kids need a nap and the adults need some alone time. Mello, Yello, Jello, it's fun for all ages. We'll be right back. Howdy, folks, and welcome back. For our first song, we've got Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People. Kev, I'd love to hear first what you thought of this track.
So Foster the People received 3.3 out of 4 possible points for composition. High marks overall, but the melody garnered them the most points in this section. This song has decent lyrics, but I couldn't find a line that really wowed me. And Cary, you know how much I like stark contrast between a message and the way in which that message is delivered. This song wears it best. As far as performance and production go, F the P earned 1 out of 1.2 points for both, no notes. And then I gave F the P 2.7 out of 3.6 points for appeal. This song just misses me for emotion. It received a lower innovation score, Pearl Jam already jumped this gun with their song Jeremy back in 1992. But repeat listenability is high, 1.4 out of 1.6. My overall tune score for Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People is 8 out of 10. Cary, what did you think?
Well, I had similar thoughts. Pumped Up Kicks is a tune that relies on the dynamics of instrument selection to make it interesting and create differences between sections. The bass line and associated chord progression are both memorable, but they play to infinity with only subtle changes within the bass line in a few parts. It becomes irritating after a few consecutive listens. The vocal melody is memorable enough, but the real star is the synth line. At about 130 beats per minute, the rhythm is effective at underlining all the other instruments, but it is much faster than I had expected for chill indie. The lyrics often seemed rushed or crunched together, and the line, "I don't even know what," in verse 1 just sounds lazy. I do like, however, the line, "He's a cowboy kid, found a 6-shooter gun," despite my, by now infamous, disdain at the fetishization of guns. I rated the composition at 3.0 out of 4.0. Normally, I would deduct a point or two for such a relaxed delivery by a singer, but this is the chill indie episode. The vocals here make it not just chill, but chilling due to that contrast that Kevin mentioned against the serious subject matter of the lyrics. I rated the performance at 1.0 out of 1.2. I deducted 1/10 of a point from the usual professional mix score because I heard too many high frequencies isolated in the right channel. I also initially thought that the bass line was too low in volume, but after hearing it about 32 times in one playthrough, I'm okay with it. While the chorus is very hooky, it is far too repetitive, as is the choice to keep the same 4-chord loop throughout the whole song. Arrangement of the synthesizers and other backing instrumentation is top-notch, though. I rated the production at 0.7 out of 1.2. I gave 3/4 credit under the innovation subcategory for appeal, not because this is innovative in the sense of pushing musical boundaries, but controversial in pushing social boundaries by putting the subject of childhood bullying and gun violence back to the forefront in a way that maybe it hadn't been done since 1992's Jeremy. It's a charged issue for a lot of folks, so high marks under emotion. I've heard Pumped Up Kicks many, many times over the last decade, and it hasn't gotten old. But it's also not a track that I actively seek out. I rated the appeal at 2.7 out of 3.6 for an overall tune score of 7.4 out of 10. For our next song, it's 2013's Riptide by Vance Joy. Again, Kev, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it first.
Vance Joy received 3.5 points for composition. The melody, lyrics, rhythm, and harmony of this piece are all equally impressive, and I also appreciated the lyrical reference to the movie Midnight Cowboy. As far as performance goes, Vance earned 1 out of 1.2 points for both. No notes here. And finally, for appeal, I gave Vance 2.8 out of 3.6 points. My overall tune score for Vance Joy's Riptide is 8.3 out of 10.
Wonderful. Riptide uses a pretty steady chord loop for most of the song, except the bridge, but uses very different melodies to differentiate song sections. These melodies are all strong, augmented by the left field nature of the lyrics. I really liked All My Friends Are Turning Green and I Want to Be Your Left-Hand Man. The rhythm is a steady 100 beats per minute by my count, again faster than I'd expect for chill indie, but it works for this song. I especially like the drum sound and the little break that happens after the chorus around 1:45. I rated the composition at 3.3 out of 4. The performance I rated at 1.1 out of 1.2. And the production at 1.0 out of 1.2. I can't quite put my ear on it, but there is something about the percussion recording that makes each individual drum sound huge, but simultaneously subdued as a whole rhythm section. I really like Riptide. It sounds like surfing without being surf music. Not terribly emotional, but not willing to waste a wave either. I've heard it many times, even though I don't actively seek it out, and when it comes up, I let it play. I rated the appeal at 2.3 out of 3.6 for an overall tune score of 7.7 out of 10. Our final song in this episode is B.O.M.B, or Back on My Bullshit, by St. Panther. This is a newer song, probably about 6 or 7 weeks old at this point. Kev, I'd love to hear your take on it.
St. Panther received 3.5 points for composition. I especially love the melody and the rhythm of this piece, and I would say that out of the 3 songs we listened to in the chill indie genre, this is actually the only one that I would say fits into that category without any shoehorning. As far as performance and production go, again, she earned 1 out of 1.2 for both. The one gripe I might have is that the lyrics are a bit difficult to hear, but I have no recommendations on how to fix that, so I didn't detract points from her score. And as far as appeal goes, I gave St. Panther 2.9 out of 3.6 points, and my final tune score for B.O.M.B is 8.4 out of 10.
Kev, I absolutely agree with you that this is probably the only one, or at least the best one, for fitting into the chill indie genre, or certainly our expectations coming into this episode. Despite having the exact same tempo as Riptide, Back on My Bullshit is the most chill of the songs in this episode. The rhythm section is programmed to be a bit sparser, but hit very effectively on the right beats. The bass line slinks around, but still lays a solid foundation for all the melodies and the chord progression. This sounds like a 2-chord loop through most of the track, except for the bridge section between 2 minutes 15 and 2:40, where you have what sounds like a half-hearted key change because everything shifts down momentarily. Lyrics here are simple, almost conversational, which fits the mood set by the backing instrumentation. I find the lyrical message of "I love you because you call me out on my bullshit" to be a little immature. I prefer people to have the self-awareness to know when they're being a dick, and also the restraint or willpower to become a better human being without being dependent almost solely on a partner. I rated the composition at 2.9 out of 4. The performance rated at 1.0 out of 1.2, as did the production. I listened to this a couple of times. The first time struck me as noticing the production elements, especially the added instrumental melodies and embellishments, in a way that I don't usually notice on first listen of a track. Like I always say, a producer's work should be in the background. Like how you only notice a stagehand if he drops the curtain on the actors, but everything settled into place on subsequent listens, so no deductions here. Back on My Bullshit, rather predictably for a chill song, didn't set my heart on fire, but it does the job of setting and keeping a relaxed mood pretty well. At 3/4 credit for repeat listenability, I'll listen to this again when the all-knowing algorithm puts it in front of me, but I'll be more likely to check out other songs by St. Panther rather than coming back to this one tune. I rated the appeal at 2.5 out of 3.6 for an overall tune score of 7.4 out of 10. So Kev, that's been 3 songs that YouTube thought we might like as chill indie, but now that we had a chance to discuss what that meant to us, our preconceived notions earlier in the episode, and now that we've had a chance to talk through our findings when actively listening to and digging into these 3 songs, do you think there are any other songs that might better fit chill indie?
So I don't have a particular song in mind that would fit the chill indie genre, but I was browsing around Reddit a while back, and I stumbled across this gentleman. His name is Adam Youngman, and his particular style, I think, lends well, or maybe fits better in the chill indie category than most. Maybe we'll put him on the YouTube playlist or something.
That sounds great, Kev. If we can find something suitable by Adam Youngman, we'll put it on the YouTube playlist. Tracks we've mentioned that deserve more love, put it on that playlist. I was thinking either Six Underground by Sneaker Pimps or Underwater Love by Smoke City. But I think they're both trip hop, which is already a genre, and probably also not indie because I've heard of them. And I think they were both in either movies or commercials during their heyday. So there you have it. The best chill indie songs are neither chill nor indie. But that said, I think it's time for us to wrap up. As always, we invite and encourage you to check out the songs that we've TuneScored today. We've updated our TuneScored tracks playlist to make it nice and easy for you to find them. Let us know in the comments. Did you like them? Do you agree with us? Do you have better recommendations for us to check out so that we can learn a little bit more as we explore this and other genres? We've had a lot of fun today, and we really look forward to seeing you in the next episode. That's been Kevin Nebrich. I've been Cary Nightingale. Stay sound.